Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I know I'm off schedule uploading again, but in the spirit of trying to be a little bit better on my toes, I decided to do an impromptu video, because everybody loves an impromptu video. It's a topic that I've been thinking about a lot, because of the direction that car styling has gone, and in general, a lot of things, TV, video games, all these different things kind of plucking on our nostalgia heartstrings. So you could probably guess already what I'm going to talk about if you haven't already seen the thumbnail or the title of the video. But I wanted to talk about two cars that are doing that very thing, which is the new Nissan Z and the Countach, Lamborghini Countach. Now I want to start by saying I was really underwhelmed by the design of the NSX. Not a big fan. The new Supra, not a big fan, for more than one reason. But let's just talk about in terms of the styling. Actually, no, you know what? Let's talk about not only the styling, but also the engineering behind it. And a lot of people, well, a couple of people I've heard saying things about the Countach being just a money grab. Now, that might potentially be true. All of these nostalgia things are technically money grabs. They're just trying to pull in the old audience and say, hey, remember this? Well, we released it again in a new way. I would actually be willing to say that Nissan more than Lamborghini, but both of these guys, I think, did it in an interesting way, in a way that could either intentionally or inadvertently be a really good pivot for what the future holds. I'm going to start with the Countach because I'm actually a lot more excited about the Z, which I never really was before, but anyway. So with the Countach, clearly they've done a lot of styling cues from the original Countach, and they added a little bit of the Cyan styling as well, particularly in the back and in the power plant and the performance figures. It's got 788 horsepower, 32 of them are from the supercapacitor, which is a very interesting concept. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. I mean, crazy. Although I will say, I kind of feel like Lamborghini is a bit irrelevant when it comes to performance in today's market. But nonetheless, the fact that they took the styling from the original Countach and brought those elements over, even if they just copied and pasted some of the styling, I think is a really interesting idea because of the fact that, in my opinion, after the Gallardo came out, the Huracan was, in my opinion, kind of boring. To be honest, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I don't even think the Murcielago was really that good looking. And when you look at things like the Countach or the Diablo, even the Miura, like, you get a sense of them having a really strong artistic style and then deviating from it to the point where it's jarring, but in like a really good way. Later Lamborghinis were really striking, but I don't know if they're necessarily appealing in my eye. This Countach, I think they did a brilliant job using the same lines and sort of modernizing it. And I can understand why people would say it's a money grab because there is a lot of copying and pasting. It's not really a reinterpretation of the styling. It's actually taking cues. For example, the new Ford GT that's being released in honor of the original GT40 with the color scheme looks amazing, looks modern, but gives you just enough to remember the original GT40. This is sort of just copying and pasting, like I said. But given the fact that a lot of the styling of their other cars has been just radical, this could potentially just plant the seed within the designer's own minds of going in a particular new direction that might start to reiterate on older styles, but just get the ball rolling. I'll give you a bit of a stretch of an example, but in my field, in the medical world, there are certain times where you have a case and a medical case, and you go down the route and you're thinking a certain path and things are not starting to fit that path. And you sort of get into this bias that you're not letting go of your initial hunch. A lot of times the piece of advice given is stop, go all the way back, and just reassess the situation from the beginning. Look at the case from the beginning again. And one of my mentors had told me once, one of the best ways to make sure that you think of what you need to think of is ask yourself the literal question, how can I totally screw this up? And it's amazing what that causes, what it causes your brain to think of. I kind of feel like this is similar to that. By forcing yourself back to an original style, it may just reset their minds and maybe start going down a different path. And that leads me to the Z. Now, as soon as I saw this, and I'm not a huge fan of the 370Z, the 350Z was fine, but this new Z, I think they did such a tasteful adaptation of certain aspects of the 300ZX and the 240. You could, if you look at it, just be like, oh, well, this is just a copy and paste as well. But I feel like with the way they went with the Z throughout the years, there is enough uniformity there, or there's enough consistency along the models where it's kind of like the 911, right? Maybe not as drastic as that, but the fact that the silhouette was kept the same so that the iterations are still part of that lineage. The Z line did change a significant amount, but there's still a recognizability of the silhouette. And the fact that they incorporated the styling in a way that it looks contemporary, but adapts the styling from previous, it looks the way retro things look today, whether it's retro video games or retro clothing or just retro styles in general, hairstyles, all these different things. There's always this modernization of an old style, which makes it fit and it appeals to people of old and new. I think that's a brilliant thing that they've done. But the reason why the Z is more impactful is because of everything under the hood. Now, it's 400 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque, not a crazy number, totally acceptable for the road, still can get you into a decent amount of trouble on the public road. The fact that they've kept the power at a significant yet reasonable amount, it's like in the perfect sphere in the market. But they do offer a 9-speed automatic, which 9-speed, like, I don't understand why they're adding so many gears. But anyway, what they did also do is they maintained the 6-speed manual. And I think with the styling, they've hit the nail on the head with regards to adapting the older style to the modern generation, especially when you contrast it to the Supra or the NSX. I'm completely bored by the look of the NSX. It never got to me. It never made me want to look back at it the way the NSX of the 90s made me feel. And the NSX of the 90s, that was at a time where I didn't know much about cars, but you look at it and you get a feeling. The most recent NSX didn't really do much for me. Granted, I haven't driven it, but we're not talking about driving, we're just talking about styling. So that was kind of boring. The Supra, for so many reasons, I feel like that was a bit of a miss. I'm sure it sold, but in terms of taking the badge and adapting it to today's standard, I don't think it holds what it did back in the day. And I feel like there are so many things about the original Supra that totally could have been kind of moved over to a modern style. Like, totally could have worked. Nissan nailed it. I think Nissan totally knocked it out of the park with this styling. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It plucks on the heartstrings of the people of old, and I think it can appeal to the newer generation who never even have seen a 300ZX. I just think it's brilliant. Anyway, those are the thoughts I had. Those recent news, and there's been a lot of, like, the Integras coming out now too, so a lot of people are harking back to the older models. I think Nissan did a brilliant job. Oh, and the other thing, Nissan this is a really interesting thing. So Nissan actually mentioned that they won't be selling it in the EU because it doesn't meet their emission standards. And that was very interesting. Now, they stated it very diplomatically, right? They stated it that they are focusing their efforts on their more eco-friendly cars for the European market. And they're very excited about bringing that to the EU market. What they didn't really say, which I think they're thinking, and we're all thinking, is, your standards are too tight? Sorry, you don't get a Z. I wonder between that and companies trying to save internal combustion using other renewable methods and net zero emission methods, I wonder if this might actually be the thing that pushes against the legislation. Because in my mind, and the way all the experts were talking, it kind of felt like EVs are coming, electricity is coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just an apocalypse. But this gave me that feeling of maybe the market can push back. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there are any other topics that you actually want discussed. Maybe we can start a conversation. Maybe you are interested in hearing my thoughts. And if that's the case, I am extremely grateful, and I will do my best to give you the best thoughts that I have. I'll see you next time.